Is an MBA a waste of time for entrepreneurs? I've heard so much misinformation about this on both sides of this argument for quite a long time. And so being someone who's had a career in entrepreneurship and I have an MBA, I obviously am quite invested in this. And it's a very important topic. And there's a lot of people out there that are wanting to be entrepreneurs. They're wanting to get out of the rat race of being an employee and learn how to generate value themselves, to turn their value into cash directly without having to go through an intermediary like an employer. You know, what they do is they take your value, they earn money with it, and then they give you a portion of it. You know, and for some people, they learn how to do that themselves, to transform their own value into money directly without an intermediary. And that, of course, are people that are entrepreneurs and business owners and things like that. And this is an incredible thing. I highly recommend it if you have any kind of desire to do this. Either you're attracted to it from the point of view of having another income stream, which is attractive in itself, but also you might be attracted to the idea from the creative side of things. You know, you're not really a follower, you're more of a leader, you want to go your own path, you got your own ideas, right? And you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, whether you're coming at it from that direction or the direction of simply, you know, looking at it from a financial perspective. This is a good thing, and I encourage it. And you can do it. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some learning, but you can get there. It's not the end of the world. Many, many people are successful in entrepreneurship, and there's never been a better time to do it. So I think this is a very exciting topic. Okay, yeah. So the question is, do you need an MBA? Now, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be somebody that, you know, you take your financial life in your hands, as it were, do you need this? And I very clearly am biased to say yes. That's what I did. I wholeheartedly recommend it. Is it absolutely necessary? No. You can get people that, and a lot of people do, they succeed in business without having learned business in school, right? And the analogy I always use, it's like Hollywood. It's like if you want to be a Hollywood actor, right? Do you need to go to drama school? Do you need to learn Shakespeare? Do you need to do plays and like stuff like that if you want to be the next Tom Cruise, right? Now, a lot of people, a lot of actors, they do go to drama school. They learn their craft and they come out of drama school and, you know, that's one of the things that allows them to crush it. Is it the be-all, end-all? No. They have a lot of luck. They have incredibly good looks. They have a lot of natural talent. And there's a few other things, right, that they have. So it's not the be-all, end-all. But one could make a very good argument that if you want to be an actor, it's kind of a good thing to go to drama school and learn how to act, right? It's the same that way in business, as far as I'm concerned. You know, do you need to learn the theory of business to be in business? No, you don't. A lot of people succeed despite not really understanding business. But it helps, right? It's a good thing. If you understand the theory about what you're doing, if you learn your craft, it helps. It's like anything else. Do you need to go and become a journeyman plumber if you want to be a plumber for a living? No. You could probably pick up stuff as you go along, but it helps, right? You know? So that's pretty much my position on it, and I would encourage everyone to check that out. I don't think anyone serious maintains that you just need an MBA and no experience to know everything. No, I don't think that's a thing. But I think a lot of people would argue that an MBA in conjunction with a lot of experience is a very powerful thing indeed. Yeah, so there's a lot of arguments against this. There's a lot of arguments for this. When I recently kind of all but gave up on LinkedIn. That's something that's happened to me recently. I've been sort of using LinkedIn less and less for several years. I used to be on there quite a lot. I built up my consulting business basically around LinkedIn and connecting with people and then meeting them and all this kind of thing, doing networking through that. And then ever since I've been sort of like ramping it down and down and down. And I've taken the latest step just like within the last 2 days because I go on there. And one of the things is that you see in your feed is people you don't know, organizations you don't know. I don't know why they're in my feed arguing about this. saying like you need an MBA, or other people saying, no, you don't need an MBA. It's like this kind of stupid feud that people have. It's silly. It's really silly. Now, in the past, there's been several arguments against an MBA, which I can get on board with. One of them being that it's so extraordinarily expensive, right? When you see universities and stuff charging you like $50,000 plus for an MBA, which is, just so everyone knows, it's a 2-year degree, right? You go to university, it's 2 years full time. That's kind of the standard thing. And they're charging you $50,000 for that, at least, in a lot of universities. And it's like, that's ridiculous as far as I'm concerned, considering a lot of the things that they're teaching you are kind of common knowledge. You can order the textbooks off Amazon and read it yourself and learn the same thing. And that's what I did by creating this, right? So everybody has access to that. Okay, if you want to learn the same material you learn in an MBA, check out that course. Okay, there's a link in the description for $100. It's like 2% the price, and I did that for several people. One of them is entrepreneurs. Okay, if you know the theory of how marketing works, that kind of helps. If you're trying to sell something, you're trying to reach an audience, you know what I mean? Things like this. If you're trying to predict where technology is going to go, well, they teach that, and there's like a whole science behind that. There's a lot of useful things in there. You want to learn accounting and you want to learn finance. Kind of knowing the theory behind both of those would be kind of important, right? If you're going to be in business is about making money. So understanding money is kind of important, right? So yeah, these are important things. The question is, do you have to take 2 years off of your life to go back to school full time? I would say no. No, you don't. That's a big part of it. And I can see why a lot of people are resistant to that. Do you have to pay $50,000 to do it? No, you don't. So there's a lot of alternatives out there. When online education really sort of became a big thing, I don't know when that happened, like around the year 2005, somewhere in there, like it really kind of took off and became like a legitimate thing. There's been some alternatives. A lot of universities kind of offer their own version of the MBA that they normally would do in person. They offer that online. They still charge an arm and a leg, so it's not really an improvement. But there are other alternatives out there, So one way or another, I would encourage you to learn the theory. Yeah, you can't really say it costs too much anymore, nor can you say it's too inconvenient to have to like quit your job and go back to school full time for 2 years. The other thing was that they did offer, a lot of universities, a lot of educational institutions will offer a sort of night program or evening program, which is good. So if you have a day job, you work all day and then you go to school for pretty much the whole evening, right? Most of the week, if not all of the entire week. And okay, you can work around your job in theory, but the problem that a lot of people have is that you might have a family, you might have a life, and that means you have to cut that out, essentially. I mean, when do you see your family if you're going to school if you're going to work from approximately 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon or whatever, and then you're going to class from 5 p.m. to like 8 or 9 p.m. at night? When are you supposed to see your family? By the time you get home, everybody's in bed. So, that was the other practical thing. So, there's still a need for other things. That's why I created my course. That's why there's other alternatives out there too. I encourage people to learn this stuff if you want to be in business. It is no substitute for experience. You still need experience. Don't get me wrong. Okay, so if you want to have your own business someday, you want to learn this stuff, okay, start with the theory, but you also need experience. You also need to A, try things, and B, you have to be immersed in whatever industry you're wanting to go into. So you need to have some contact with it. What's really advantageous is if you're on the inside of it in some way. Okay, you can do that through various means, up to and including even more extreme things or more committed things like getting a job inside that industry, just to be on the inside of it to see how it works, knowing that you want to start up your own business in that industry, either in the short term or the long term. but you want to be able to get in and see what's going on, make some connections, get access to everything. So there's a lot of ways to do that. Like I've done many entrepreneurial ventures, and I've also mentored two sort of types of people. One is like founders of startups. Startups are, and I mean that in the sense of more of an innovative tech type startup. Some people that are trying to do something a little bit different. But also in my day job, I work with businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs, and I've mentored and consulted for those people and helped them solve various problems, whether it's diminishing sales or whether they're trying to get into a certain business or anything like that. I've been able to help with stuff like that. So the difference really is the scale and the fact that usually those people aren't trying to do an innovative type business. They're not trying to do something that is rare or is not mainstream. They're trying to do more established standard business models, right? Like things in the construction industry, for example. You want to be a plumber, you want to be a contractor. Not too much innovation going on there for a lot of the smaller players. It's pretty straightforward. Whereas if you're trying to write an app or something, that's an innovative startup. You're trying to do something new, right? Something that hasn't been done before. You're creating something new and different. So an entirely different thing, entirely different business model. The innovative model is much more challenging. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's essentially the heavyweight championship of business problems. And the reason for that is because let's say you want to open a plumbing business, okay? Well, that's got many advantages. When you put up a sign and say, hello, I offer plumbing services, right? A lot of people that see that, first of all, they'll know what that is. They'll know what plumbing is. They'll also know that it applies to them, right? Because it's something more mature, more established. So things like plumbing, everybody has it in their home to varying degrees, right? So it's a known quantity. There's also an existing industry set up around plumbing. It's a very standard thing that's existed for a long time. You can go to Google or whatever, you can type in plumbing and you can see a lot of established businesses. You would have a lot of competitors that are doing the same thing as you. You would have, various partners that would work with you, standardized customers or clients that would work with you, like general contractors that build houses or they build commercial buildings, and they always hire plumbers. They have their default plumbing supplier or subcontractor that they work with, or a list of them, right? So there's this whole ecosystem that's already established around plumbing, right? People know what it is. And it's almost like people have already written the playbook on what to do if you're a plumbing company. You can find all kinds of examples of what to do and look at what they're doing. There's people that know they need plumbing services and they have a standard way of going about procuring plumbing services from companies like yours. So it's already established. The whole thing is all there. So it's very much, in a way, a paint by numbers kind of thing, right? Completely different business problem to an innovative startup. An innovative startup, when you say, hi, I've got this new thing, right? You put up a sign, this is what it is, and this is what it does. Most people go, what? Because they've never heard of it. They don't know what it is. They don't know why they would need that. They don't even necessarily agree that that's something that they feel they should have to pay for, So you're coming along with a new thing that nobody's heard of. There's no ecosystem, no playbook around how you make this work, who would want it, how you go about marketing it, selling it, this kind of thing. That's none of that's been written. It's all like a wilderness. It's the undiscovered country, and you're the pioneer, right? So it's really like a completely different thing. It's a much more challenging business problem to do the innovative startup. Guido is saying, do you think solo entrepreneurship is becoming more common, or is just the overall content on the internet advocating it that is increasing? I don't have any hard data for that, but everything that I've seen indicates that it is real. At least in the last 10, 15 years, there's been a definite upward trend for people doing stuff. Like, yes, there's stuff on the internet, like you can do internet-based startups, like businesses. You could have internet stores selling things, or like what you're seeing me do here, like with YouTube, with content creation, stuff like that. Yes, you have that, right? But in addition, you've got people doing sort of brick and mortar stuff, like real stuff out in the world. Like I just mentioned, in the construction business, you always have people starting up stuff. And my understanding is that there's been a boom of those sort of small startup players across the board. Now, not every industry works the same. In some industries like oil refining or the airline industry, there's much more concentration in like extremely large players, right? You do get startups and you can get a lot of them, but it's still a higher proportion of like big players in those industries because their industry works a certain way. So I don't have any hard data on it, but it's been increasing. Now, in the last, couple of years, it seems like there's been a little bit of a, not recession, but a sort of stagnation in at least the North American economy. I don't pay too much attention to economics, generally speaking. I used to do that more when I was a CEO and stuff, but it's like, I don't really have a need to. The goal for me and all my clients is to succeed despite economic conditions. So you are aware of it, but it doesn't really affect what you do. You can't influence it. You just have to go with the flow, and you try and make yourself as resilient as possible against, sort of volatile economic conditions. But in the last couple of years, I get the vibe that things have, kind of stagnated a bit. So that, I'm sure, has slowed the rate that people are starting businesses and things like this. People tend to do more of it in a boom economy. People tend to do a bit less of it in a kind of a bust or a declining economy. But there's still a lot of it going on. And overall, as far as I know, the trend is still upward, for this stuff. So it isn't all just like a perception. There is something behind it. For example, recently, in the last 2 or 3, 4 years, we had like the AI kind of boom, right? There was a lot of hiring. That's kind of come to an end, at least for the moment. Most people agree it's going to pick up, but at the moment they overshot, they overestimated. That's how these things always go. A little bit more, too much exuberance, right? And they hired a ton of people anticipating all kinds of business. And they did get more business, but it wasn't as much as they thought. So we've experienced that. So there's a bit of it. But the way to know would be to go and look at the economic data from the region you're in. So if you're in the US and you're in a particular state, they publish all that. You can see like within the last 12 months, how not only has the economy been doing in that state, in that region, but how all the different industries have been doing in that region. All that stuff is out there. I don't know how easy that is to synthesize if there's people really tuned into it that are like analyzing it and putting it into plain English for people. But I mean, all that stuff is there. Where I am in Canada, all that stuff is there. The governments publish all this stuff. It's within their own interest to publish it because they're trying to encourage, foreign direct investment. They're trying to encourage, people to sort of move into their territory and set up shop. So they're trying to encourage that, and they do that by gathering all the data and publishing it, so it's easy to look at and see if it makes sense for you to set up shop in that location or that region. So you can access all this. You can see, like, for example, how much money people are making in different industries in your region. You can also see the number of the employment numbers, whether it's going up or down in different industries in your region. All that stuff is there. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Even with things like ChatGPT and a lot of AI tools that can help synthesize that to a degree. I haven't tried that, but that would be something that would be interesting to do. Get on ChatGPT and say, for my region, give me some economic data and break it down by industry and give me some of the metrics. And are they trending up or trending down, or what's going on? And even just doing something like that, you can get a sense of, what's going on in your, whatever industry you're interested in. Guido says, I'm in a few communities that want to build side hustles by building apps, but many people are unable to even get a single client. I guess the market is more saturated than for Taylor Swift. Okay, now listen, having had some experience in the IT industry back in the day, okay, here's what I can tell you about that kind of stuff. I've worked with people in a lot of different industries, but IT is kind of a special case, and I don't mean this in probably the way you think I do. I've worked with a lot of founders that have like a software related idea. Okay. So either they're wanting to build an app and it's essentially like a product, right? Or they're more on the sort of, so that's kind of almost like the developer side, or they're more on the systems admin side and they want to provide like services. They want to maintain, the IT systems for businesses. They have skills in like security, cybersecurity services and things like that. They can like offer, or hosting or website design or, all kinds of different things like that. What I've noticed from years of dealing with those type of people is they tend to be very technical. They also tend to be on the introverted side, meaning that they're not social butterflies. Networking is something that doesn't come natural to them. If there's something going on in the real world and they need to get some information about how that works, they tend to sit at home, get on the computer and try and find out over the computer, as opposed to more of what an extrovert would do. They tend to go down to the place where it's happening and talk to the people there and see with their own eyes what's working and learn that way, by talking and seeing, yourself face to face rather than being physically removed from it and trying to do it all remotely and virtually, right? And as a result, they don't understand business. You see, for them, generally speaking, and there's always exceptions, and I've worked with some of the exceptions, but generally speaking, with them, the line really blurs between what's a business and what's a research project. And you get these people that they're really into the operation side, like they want to build an app or they want to offer this service and do these things, right? And all of their 100% of their thoughts is occupied by what I'm going to do. I'm going to build an app and it's going to have this function. This is how I'm going to do it. And it's going to have these features and this is what it's going to look like. And, but not a single thought to, is this what people want? What are people's reactions going to be to this? Who would want to buy it? How do I reach them? How do I convince them to buy it? What problem are they having that this solves? Oh yeah, I can guess the answers to those. I can just assume I know it all and guess without ever having gotten the tiniest shred of proof by even meeting a potential customer that would want this, But I'm sure they exist, and I'm sure they all think exactly like me, right? And I'm just going to assume that, and then I'm going to create the entire thing, and then I'm going to find that, I can't sell it. And then I give up, and I lose, right? And it fails. I've met so many of those people, and it's very unfortunate because they've got half the skill sets you need. They've got the operation side down. That's great. That's great. Wonderful. But they're missing the most important part, which is that this is a business. It's not a research project. If you were just doing this as a proof of concept to prove to yourself that you could do it, great. Maybe you want to show it off in job interviews. You want to meet somebody that could give you a job, and then you want to they say, why should we hire you? How do we know you're any good? And you say, check this out. Here's an app I wrote. See what it's doing there? You see that? Oh, look, bam, there you go. Right there. It just did that for you. That was real. That just happened, right? I did that. That's what I can do for you, right? So if you want to do a proof of concept thing like that, great. These people are awesome at it. But if it's a business you want to do, meaning that it has to make money, it's a completely different problem. What you may think people should want often is not what they think they want or not what they want. Regardless of how much they should want it, they don't. You know what I'm saying? So you have to learn the reality, right? Not everyone is a tech super user that understands how the app is written. They're far less sophisticated. Do they understand the need for it and how to use it, and that it's even a thing. You know what I mean? So these are like real world questions, right? That a lot of technical startup founders, they often don't have. They have a blind spot for it. And what I've seen, and not to go on forever about this, but what makes it worse is that it's not that they're dumb. It's not that this stuff is beyond them. It's just that they have a blind spot, and it's fueled by a lack of respect. They don't even realize that these are important things. They think that's just trivia. Who cares about that? They think like that right up to the point where they try and sell it and realize they can't get a single client, like you said. And then they don't know what to do. I don't know what went wrong, you know? Anyway, the theme of this is why you would need like an MBA. Well, the MBA is like how that teaches you business. That's the business component. If you want to write an app, you don't need to get an MBA. It's not going to help you at all with that. But how to sell it, that's the business problem, right? Another thing that has happened in the tech industry, okay, is this. I don't know what you call this. It's like a syndrome. It's where you've all heard the stories of tremendous success. Steve Jobs and the iPod, Bill Gates and Windows. You know what I mean? Like we've all heard those stories in the tech industry. And you see, in those cases, you've had a situation where someone just had an amazing product on their hand that was amazing product that was executed incredibly well. And it was marketed incredibly well, right? Nobody asked for those products. Some visionary said, I believe we should do this, right? Now, they just happened to be right in a big way. It turns out that not only was their idea good, okay, that's the start, but it was executed very well, and then it was marketed well, it was communicated very well to the world, right? And then everybody who never asked for this thing saw it and went, oh my God, that's amazing. I must have that. And it was a tremendous hit. We've all heard several like very popular anecdotes of that happening, these popular stories, right? So the problem is you get a lot of young people that go into tech. And I've seen this with like even project managers and, mid-level managers and people who have never really done anything in the sense that, have you created a massive hit product that's made you your fame and fortune? No, you haven't. So they go to school, they learn how to develop, they learn how to write code, whatever. They work in industry, they see how you work. Oh, this is how you do it. You submit your code, it goes into the product, you test it. So they go, okay, here's how it works. Nobody asks for the product, but we make it anyway because we know better, right? Then we don't care when our target market, our customers say, we don't want that because we tell ourselves that we know better. And, you just wait. Once we force it on you, you'll see that we were right all along, right? And you'll just love it. Okay, that's how this works. You see? I get it now. I've seen how all the great people do it, and that's how it works. So that's what we're going to do, right? And what they do is they rush ahead. Now, what they don't realize they're doing, because a lot of these people don't understand business, they understand IT and they're amazing at it, but they don't understand how to sell something. They're breaking a lot of the fundamental rules of marketing. And then the whole thing blows up in their face. Nobody asked them for a thing. They made it anyway. And then they're surprised that it doesn't sell and nobody likes it, right? It's like that's the problem. They're just making assumptions. This is how you do it. It's not how you do it. The only reason people think you do it like that is because a few people have had tremendous success by doing that and being the wild exception to the rule. But it's such a big, famous example that it's so popular, everybody knows it. So it fools people into thinking like, oh, that's how it works. And it's false. That's not how it works. Look at Hollywood these days, you can argue. I don't want to get into the political stuff, but you could argue that Hollywood is doing the same thing. They're very famous for ignoring the voice of their customers. Now, in any other industry, it's common knowledge. You just don't do that. And I've worked across 5 industries directly. Everything from IT to the railroad, to academia. It's like, you don't do that. If people are saying we don't want this and we're mad at you that you're trying to force it on us, you stop, you know? But I kind of enjoy sitting back and watching what Hollywood is doing. It's like they're totally off the map. They're doing things that no one ever does for good reason. And they seem to keep failing, you know? It's because they're ignoring what their customers say. So yeah, you ignore the rules of marketing at your peril. That's one of the things you learn in an MBA, by the way. So that big, long story to say this, when you're trying to get an entrepreneurial venture off the ground, there's several parts to it. One is the technical aspect, the actual operations side where you're creating something, right? And you guys got that down. You know, if you're from IT, you're creating an app or something, you got that down. But that's only one tiny piece of like what you're actually trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Other pieces include things like, first of all, is this something that somebody wants? You need to create something that as soon as your customers see it, they go, I want that. I must have that. Here, take my money. Right? Now, does the thing you've designed have that reaction? If it doesn't have that reaction to anyone, it's a fail. You know, I don't care if it does what you intended it to do. That's great. It's a wonderful research project you've done. But if it doesn't have that reaction to any customer that you can reach and you can convince, it's a failure. You see, it's a failure from a business perspective. The other things you need to learn is like, okay, how can you do this and yet make a profit? That's a whole other dimension to it. You know, if you could spend an infinite amount of money to create something, then you could probably achieve the result, but you're under some constraints there too, right? So this is the stuff that you learn from the business side, right? Now, I'm not saying that you're doing any of these things. I'm just saying that this is what I've seen, and it's been impossible for me to convince these people of this. They have to go and fail hard to learn some of these lessons, and a lot of them don't even learn the lessons then. They just know that they failed, but they don't understand why.